Hey everyone, unfortunately Rivian stock price took another downward trend of 7% today. As I've been telling investors to avoid Rivian stock for several years now, the stock price has been moving downward. It's now down over 90% off its highs reached initially a few years ago. So what's a good entry point for Rivian stock? At what point is it enough is enough and it's finally time to buy? I'm going to answer that question in this video. I'm going to highlight where I think is a point where investors can finally say, okay, this is a good price to get into this company. So let's jump right into the analysis.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
So I mentioned that Rivian stock price took another dip today, down to $9.57 per share as of this recording. It was down from over $10 per share earlier. One of the reasons the stock price has been down is the increasing competition in the electric vehicle space. Now with another entrant in the EV truck space, Chevrolet launching its own EV truck, Ford meanwhile offering more incentives for customers to purchase its electric trucks and thereby making competitive pressure even more than it already was. Competition is one of the reasons why I've been highlighting I did not like any of these EV companies, including Rivian, because when competition is as fierce as it is, it's very bad news for investors. These EV companies are already losing money on the bottom line. I'll show you exactly how much money Rivian is losing. And on top of that, it's only getting worse because they're cutting prices and increasing supply industry-wide. And so you already have a bad situation where there's too much supply according to demand, and it's only getting worse because supply is increasing, prices decreasing, and the situation is just getting worse. And it's going to continue this way for a while. And one of the reasons for that is because of the frenzy in 2020 and 2021. You might say, wait a minute, how was the frenzy in 2020 and 2021 hurting the industry right now? I'll tell you. During 2020 and 2021, EV companies got more money than they should have. They got more money than they should have. So companies like Rivian were able to load up and they accumulated nearly $20 billion in cash. And so they gave themselves a long runway to continue losing money, billions and billions and billions of dollars, without running out. And they just continue losing money. Normally, when there's this type of disequilibrium in the industry, companies go bust. And when those companies go bust, the balance in the industry evens out. You get the lower supply, and then the lower supply is now in balance with the lower demand, and the industry levels out. It balances out instead of continuously getting worse. For the EV industry, unfortunately, these companies that were infused with billions and billions of dollars gives them a long runway. They can continue losing money on the bottom line, and they're not going to run out anytime soon. I'll show you that with Rivian as well. So Rivian in 2023, right? In 2023, their net cash from operations was negative $4.9 billion or $4.866 billion. That's how much cash left the company because of its operations. So everyday, day-to-day operations running the business allowed it or caused it to lose $4.9 billion. That wasn't very much of an improvement in the prior year where it lost $5 billion. So $5 billion negative in 2022, 4.9 billion negative in 2023, and 2024 is likely to be another 4 to 5 billion negative for Rivian. Now, how can a company continue losing $5 billion in cash and just keep on going forward like nothing happened? Well, because in 2020, 2021, Rivian was infused with billions of dollars. It had almost $20 billion at one point. So it can continue going through these billions because of all that capital it got from investors. So normally, a company cannot go through this much money and survive. Rivian has been able to do so. Now, when will these losses end? Not in 2024, probably not in 2025. So there's more billions available for Rivian to lose. So starting in 2022, Rivian had $18.4 billion, and then they ended the year with $12 billion after they burned through $6.3 billion, including with the cash flow from operations. Rivian had to spend $1.369 billion in capital expenditures to update its facilities, to streamline its operations, to lower its cost, to improve the supply chain, all of which cost the company $1.369 billion. In 2023, that cost the company another billion. In 2024, the company right now is probably undergoing its second quarter shutdown to upgrade its manufacturing facility. That's also going to lead to increasing capital expenditure. Hopefully that leads to lower cost production and improves its gross profit, which management says is going to improve. But that's still costs that the company has to pay cash upfront, upwards of $1 billion, to make those improvements. So they started 2022 with 18 billion. They went down to 12 billion. They started 2023 with 12 billion, and they ended the year with 7.85 billion. And that's after they got another $3.2 billion from investors through a convertible note issuance. So they were able to raise another $3 billion from investors. Well, why do investors keep giving money to a company that's burning through billions of dollars? Well, because they have hopes that one day it's going to be profitable. There are many investors that are extremely enthusiastic about EV stocks and EV companies, and Rivian specifically. I can tell by the number of angry emails I get every time I make a video about Rivian and say anything even remotely negative about the company. There's a lot of investors that are very hopeful about this company and are enthusiastic about this company, and they've invested a great deal of their funds into this company. Now, it's unfortunate to see investors lose so much money on a company that I haven't seen its investment potential for several years, and I've been warning against investing in this stock for several years. But nevertheless, there are investors that think this company has excellent prospects, and that's their right, that's their own choice. It's your own money. You have to decide what to do with your own money. I'm only providing information and my opinion, my personal opinion only. So I mentioned earlier that management said they're going to improve their gross profit. Well, they need to, because their gross profit per vehicle delivered was approximately negative $43,000. So now this isn't the case with each individual vehicle, but on average, Rivian loses $43,000 for every vehicle that it sells. So their vehicles on average sell for what, like $80,000, you can say? And for every car that they sell, they lose 43,000. So two things need to happen. They need to reduce the cost to produce, and they need to increase the price they sell for. Otherwise, they're not going to make money. Or they need to produce so many units that the cost per unit also decreases through increasing economies in scale. That last one is highly unlikely given the factors I mentioned earlier, where consumer demand versus supply of electric vehicles is already out of balance. So producing more or trying to sell more doesn't seem likely, at least not in 2024. Maybe in 2025 or 2026 or 2027, but not in 2024. So these losses are likely to continue. I mentioned they are shutting down their plant to make improvements, and management says that they forecast reaching positive gross profit in the fourth quarter of 2024. That remains to be seen. If they achieve that, that would be great news. But here's a little trick that management can play. If they produce fewer vehicles, they're likely to have a better profit margin. Why is that the case? Because they have other services segments of the business that's more profitable than selling vehicles. And so if they sell fewer vehicles, because they lose money on every vehicle they sell, if they sell fewer vehicles, their gross profit margin could be better, depending, of course, on the mix of the vehicles they sell and how the other segments of the business do. But that just gives you an idea that companies can play tricks with how they allocate their expense to deliver gross profit, right? Another way they could do this without actually having meaningful improvement in the business is to increase their spending on sales and marketing, which will then allow them to have better sales of the vehicles, which will improve the gross profit margin, but it'll keep the losses on the bottom line where they are or even worse. But they can still say to investors, look, we said we'd do gross profit positive, and we did gross profit positive. So at this point, the company has $9.368 billion in cash and short-term investments, and they have roughly $4.4 billion in long-term debt. The market capitalization of the company is $9.31 billion. So roughly $5 billion net of cash is the market cap of this company. And the current price is $9.57. So where would I think is a good entry point for Rivian stock price? I think somewhere around $5 per share, $5.50 per share would be a good entry point for Rivian stock. At that point, I would say their cash balance versus the price of the stock makes it a worthwhile chance to take on a company that may find a way to turn profitable, maybe once they produce their lower priced model, or maybe once the industry gets into better balance after a few of these lower capitalized companies like Fisker go out of business potentially, and others like it that don't have the cash that Rivian does, they go out of business, and thereby the balance of the industry is better. Maybe there's a chance, but I'm not willing to take that chance at $9.57 a share. I would perhaps consider taking a chance at $5.50 or $5 per share. Thank you for watching this video. I truly appreciate it. I know there's a lot you could be doing with your time and a lot of other videos you could be watching. So I truly appreciate that you chose to watch this one. If you want to see more videos just like this, hit the subscribe or the like button. They'll both help me make more videos just like this one. Thank you again.